Hey everybody, you know what time it is, you know what day it is. It is time for the next version of Ambush. No, wait. Is it a man or a machine? No, wait. God damn it. No, that's right. It's time for Syntax Live. How's everybody doing tonight? I already see a few people in the chat. Welcome to the stream, everybody. First things first, got to make sure I got my stuff lined up. Don't worry. It's soda again. You know I'm not going to get totally drunk with you guys. I don't know if you've ever had birch beer, but if you try it, do it. But tonight, everybody, going to be an interesting one, I hope. And we're going to be talking about weapons, science fiction weapon systems, because there's been a lot of confusion with the new series that came out, Man and Machine. And I wanted to go over some of the areas as far as the weapons go and as far as the verbiage goes, so everybody knows what the hell is going on. And we actually have the Sea Dog out there. Some of the stuff he's actually going to know about, although my verbiage might be a little different because I wasn't on the ocean, man. I wasn't there, so I try to get as close as I can, but I'm a grunt. Sorry, it's what I know. I get some stuff from like the Marines and the Navy guys and the Air Force. I get it from all there. But tonight, we're going to be talking about the practicality of the weapon systems in science fiction, how they are bracketed, how they work, the different types, and why they work the way they do. We're going to be mixing in science fiction with science fact. All right, because some of the science fiction, as you know, is only science fiction for so long. However, as of right now, we don't have anything to really go by. So first things first, weapon breakdown. We're going to have two separate weapon systems up there. That, as far as direct fire, we're not going to go into missile or torpedo yet. That's later. But direct fire weapons, you got energy-based weapons and you got ballistic weapons. When you got your energy-based weapons, remember, you have different type of lasers. Whenever you are making a story, you have to specify what type. I personally like particle beam lasers because they work better. They're easier to condense. They're easier to focus. They usually don't have as good a range as a light laser or a heat laser, but they do strike harder. They're able to actually perforate through a whole lot better because you are actually shooting basically something that is light as light. Okay, now I'm kind of stepping on my words, but you get the idea. There's no dense mass. However, you're still firing at an extremely fast pace. The only thing you got to worry about with energy weapons at that point is heat. Overheating, all the weapons are going to overheat in space. If you don't know much about space, let me nerd out on you a little bit, is the fact that there's almost no way to dissipate heat without an actual cooling system, which is why I kind of laugh at a lot of these. Even Babylon 5, as much as I love it, a lot of the weapons should basically just overheat the entire system within the first 2 minutes of them firing. It's absolutely crazy. You're firing that much, that fast, especially strong beams like that, it's going to get nasty. And which is why when you look at the International Space Station, those aren't solar panels. Those are radiators trying to bleed that off. Which is why, again, if you are into Man and Machine, you will find out that you can only fire your main guns so many times before you got to give them a chance to cool off. If you don't give them a chance to cool off, well, boom. You know, it's just the way it is. You'll overheat the whole thing. It's just like melting the barrel off any type of ballistic weapon. Now, the reason heat doesn't dissipate very fast is very simple. There's no conduction. There's no convection there. There's very little out in space for the heat to grab a hold of and come off, which is why if you've actually read Starship Troopers, the book, not the movies, but the book, they actually go on the fact that coming down, you have to constantly shoot off the actual sides of the pod because they're getting so hot, they're starting to melt. But as soon as you launch that off, you've radiated the heat away. In the ether of space, there's not much to actually bleed heat off. It just doesn't really happen. That's why you need a coolant system. And it has to be pretty robust, pretty damn robust, especially when you're talking about main battleship weapons. That's one way to reach out and touch you, not in a fun way. I keep neglecting to do it, but I do have one. It's a very old story that I had where it was two fleets facing off. One of the shots was fired. It was more of a plasma cannon, and it was coming in, and the other comms officer said, "We're about to get hit." Commander says, how bad? Are you close to God, sir? Am I coming in? Because I put this off. I turned it up. Am I actually coming in? Guys, if you let me know. I put that off so I didn't actually blow your eardrums out. I'm not blowing your eardrums out, am I? Just let me know in the chat. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, sorry. You know what? I hit the wrong, when I moved it, I hit this little trigger right there. It shut everything in half. Anyways, when you're coming to energy weapons, you also have two different bases here. You have turreted weapons and you have keel-based weapons, as in fixed positions. Obviously, the fixed one's going to be more robust. If you've actually seen Battleship Yamamoto, you realize that the reason why the wave motion cannon was basically the keel of the ship is because the thing is freaking huge. You can't put it on a turret. Not to mention, when turrets move, it's going to force the ship itself to turn a little bit. It's got to do with the differential of mass, which is why I'm very careful, at least I try to be, with the movement of turrets, because that's going to shift the entire ship. It's going to shake everybody inside too. I use Newtonian physics as much as I can. I don't talk about as much as I should, but then again, maybe I should. Now, as far as your turret-based weapons go, most of those are just going to be focused beams and all that. But again, you're still working with heat. The bonus on that is you can have continuous fire, because if you have, say, 4 barrels, you can fire one, then fire the other, then fire the other, then fire the other. By the time you get there, this one's already cooled down, and you fire, and you fire, and you fire, and you fire. It works really, really well. That's the reason I love turreted weapons so much, is they're multi-barreled. Now, if you have fixed weapons, many of them on the front of the ship, you're just firing off in waves, doing a spray and pray. All right. Now, we went over energy, different types. All right. We're going to go over the speed and distance, effective range of each of these. You got to remember, there's an effective range for energy weapons based on, one, the type of laser and your power output. That's why the fixed munitions are going to do so well. Is you just aim the ship, you fire, and you can put everything from whatever type of engine you got into that condensed beam, launch it out, and you got one hell of a range. But you only fire so many times. Or you can go to ballistic weapons, which do fire as long as you have ammo. You can just fire and fire and fire. It's not going to build up a lot of heat, because those of you who don't know what sabot rounds is, if you actually shoot, you'll hear it. People call it sabot, because SB or SABOT is what you see it as. It's actually pronounced sabot. And what you do is you use a non-conductive material on the outside. So as soon as the round exits, the outside just opens up and just kind of goes away. Shoo, goes away. And that will make the projectile go faster, but it also takes all that heat away. So that's why ballistic weapons are a lot cooler, but they do not fire at light speed. If you can fire a ballistic weapon at light speed out of a barrel, you're not going to have much of a barrel left. It's just, it really doesn't work that way unless you found some sort of material that's going to slide easier than that goo that you get in the aisle in CVS or whatever. You know, the stuff that put a Cadillac into a doghouse, so to speak. However, effective range of ballistic weapons is how far does it have to travel before whatever you're shooting at moves out of the way and just lets it pass. They're not going to stop it. Your point defense system is going to shoot it, and it's going to smile at you and keep coming. Probably flip you off on the way by too. But effective range, basically, as long as it can not move out of the way just enough and that round hits enough, you're in effective range. You're going to hear that a lot. And I do have to thank the fans out there, at least one. I didn't write down the name. I wish I did. But the one who suggested I look up time on target and also time to targets and things like that, because everything out there is actually done on time, not exactly distance. That's why, light years and stuff like that, that's actually time converted into distance. You guys understand it. You guys are all smart enough to understand that. So let's see. Okay, so we've gone over the two basic types with the energy and ballistic. So if you're going to be writing a sci-fi story, whichever one you're working with, remember they have different effects. The energy weapon is usually going to melt. The ballistic is going to pierce. Most ballistic weapons are not going to explode inside. They are meant to pierce, hit critical systems, and then basically skewer from mouth to anus all the way through the ship, or bow to aft, however you want to put that, straight through. Like fast food, it goes right through me. So, hey. Anyways, a lot of your turreted munitions are not going to have as much force. So if you decide whether or not the rounds are going to go all the way through, they're going to get stuck halfway. Maybe they get stuck with somebody up on the wall. Hey, it is what it is. Now, there is another area because the main gun is usually the one that's fixed into the actual ship itself. There's your main gun. Your secondary is your main turrets. So if we were to take the battleship, say Missouri, and put a really large fixed cannon that goes basically from the bow to the stern in that sucker, so it could just face towards, I don't know, an island, and say, fuck that island, and they fire it and it's gone, island's gone, then that would be their primary main gun. The turrets would be the secondary. Now in space combat, you are going to have a fixed weapon always. That's going to be your primary. Turreted fixed. Your tertiary is behind that, is your limited range but packs a punch type guns. That is not your point defense system. I'm reading off my notes on this one. I have to make it a point. Now, those of you who are actually in the Navy know this, as you would look at your destroyers. Most of your missiles are your primary weapons. They don't really have the actual second or tertiary secondary layer split. It's just the way it is, unless you count electronic jamming. But after that, you've got your deck gun, your 5-inch gun. That's a reach out and hurt you type of weapon. It doesn't have anywhere close the range of any missile. However, it's going to fuck up a boat pretty fast, like really, really fast. Holy crap. Look online. You see videos. They'll just 3 or 4 of those rounds. They explode too, most of them. But after that, what's behind it? You have another layer of defense, which is the phalanx system. R2D2 with a heart on is what they call it. I'm not even kidding. I've heard that so many times. I'm just sitting there going, oh, sheesh. Where's the golden gay robot along next to it? So what the hell? Whatever. But anyway, that would be your point defense, would actually be the phalanx system. Now, do we have our own versions that are energy based? They're coming. They're being worked on right now, but they're basically in beta test right now. But the problem is getting enough power on those and focusing the beam enough. That's a problem with the energy base. Even in point defense systems, you're very limited range. You're trying to condense that beam so tight so when it actually pokes something, that something blows up or goes haywire or something. That's the main thing with point defense. That's why most people writing sci-fi stick with the standard guns. If you've ever seen, was at The Expanse, the first episode, with their big flying brick of a ship. Looks like they took the Empire State Building and turned it on its side, and it's just covered in ballistic weapons. And that's your point defense system, and that works. Practicality wise, as long as you have ammo, that's going to work. Which I like. The thing is, as they've seen, a lot of times they actually have to roll the ship because the cannons are actually, because they're pushing, there's recoil. It's actually pushing back. And they don't show it as much, but you would have to fire some sort of thruster to readjust. All right, going on those. Okay, the next one I want to go into is mines. Those of you guys who've been watching Man or Machine, and yes, don't worry, I think most of you have figured out where that's going on that title. I've hinted at it enough. As far as the mines go, I think it was episode 2. Good old humanity said, you know what? We're going to be outgunned, so let's do what the Empire does. It's a trap, and then kablooey, they blew half a ship or half a fleet apart.
That munition was specifically meant to be gravimetric. Not only was there a gravity field that it put out, it was also magnetic. So it grabbed the side of the ships, organic or not, gravity is going to grab one, magnetic's going to grab the other, and it yanked them in real close. The whole idea is the same part of put a firecracker on your hand, it's going to burn your hand. Wrap your hand around it, going to blow your hand off. So they were trying to crush the ships around it. So kablooey, they got maximum effect, which they did. There was a secondary effect, which I put in there into the technology level on both sides, which I'll touch on in a minute. If you're going to use mines in your story, understand you have to figure out, is there going to be a time fuse? Is it going to be set off remotely? What's your detonation? Okay, each of these has three main parts. Your timer, or basically your fuse, your detonator, and your charge itself. Everything else is just extra. Those are the three main parts that go into this. I dealt with those when I was overseas, and none of them are fun. I'll tell you that much, especially when they blow the ass end off your truck and your truck goes whoop, bam, down. And people are yelling at you to hit the gas, and you're like, the ass of the truck is gone. What do you want me to do? Oh, hit the gas. Hit the gas. Whoa, told you, dumbass. And then you get out the truck and hope nobody's shooting at you at that point. Anyways, and yes, everybody on the Humvee behind us thought we were all smoked, and nobody died. 2 guys got peppered. The interpreter and the other guy sitting on the side who got shrapnel up his ass. It didn't bullseye him before you say anything. And if he said, I got shot in the buttocks one more time, I was going to shoot him. All right. I will say this, with the mines I used, yes, they were nukes. They were actually, I kind of stole the Nova bomb from Halo and kind of mixed it haphazardly with the Zarbomba. But the reason for the way I did that for a specific reason. I didn't specify it in that episode. It was specified later. When you have that many ships together, there's going to be electromagnetic interference. Now, this I actually got from a physicist. He said when you get too much together, a lot of times your signals get screwy, which is why you can't jump directly into a group. Not in that story, you can't. The technology doesn't allow you to filter that out. So what they did is they blew everybody up and out so they can make a hole so they can start jumping in. You notice the smaller ships jumped in first and basically were shooting everybody away. Get out of here, you little bastard. And eventually they got a hole big enough where the battleship could actually jump in. They didn't want to bring them straight in because that's going to lead them straight into the guns. They didn't want to do that. And again, it was a trap. Sometimes you just got to lay a trap. Just like that story, yes, there is another one with humans. It's always a trap. That one. I think I did 2 episodes on that, and I got pulled away on something else. I didn't go back. If you guys like that one, I'll put that one on the list. I think the next one was supposed to be, hold on. Was supposed to be new crewmate. Somebody wanted new crewmate because they thought it was funny. And honestly, that's why I made it. It was meant to be funny. The only guy in a spaceship full of different female aliens, and they hadn't even sniffed the guy in about a year and a half. So yeah, that would get interesting. Very interesting. Especially when somebody's like, I just want to be here and do my job. Stop trying to take my pants off. So anyways, again, that one started as kind of a joke, but again, I got pulled away for whatever reason. Now, let me review my notes to see what else we're going on. And the last thing I want to talk about was when you're using missiles or torpedoes. In reality, the difference between the two is negligible. The reason being is because they're both meant to use propellant and fly in and strike the target, then explode. The difference between the two is, again, very minimal. Torpedoes are usually meant to fly in fairly straight. They're usually armored so they can take a hit or two. Then they hit the target and they go as deep as they can, and then they blow like a bunker buster. The idea on that is secondary explosions, decompression, a whole bunch of shrapnel everywhere, and cause massive problems. And of course, the bigger the ship, the more problems you want to get. With the missile, at least in space, missiles are meant to be more agile. They're meant for taking out drones, fighters, corvettes, things like that. Frigate size, you can go either way. But at least the way I got it set up, because that's the way I divide them between corvette, or you get fighter and cargo, corvette class, frigate, destroyer, cruiser, battleship, dreadnought, and then holy shit, no, that's the Titan class. I barely touch those. But they're meant to be smaller, lighter, more agile, and be able to hit a smaller target. And they usually explode on impact. Very few of them are designed to drill in and explode. The whole point of the missile is to actually knock the ship sideways, up, down, left, right, center, hit your dorsal and ventral side. So the crew's being bounced around inside. If you don't kill them, you're making it so they don't feel good. I don't care who you are. Take somebody who's like half asleep, pick them up and move them around. Or I'm sure we've all had this where somebody thought it was funny. Hey, how you doing? Wake up. And you're just like, oh, I'm going to throw up on you. Yeah, that's the whole point. But missiles and torpedoes have a secondary purpose. They are decoys. They're decoys from the main guns to stay away from your fleet. Now, I did a whole thing before a few weeks back on an actual drop, if you wanted to use drop pods, and how complicated that is. I did a video on that. Actually, it was orbital drops. It's complicated. I didn't even hit all of it. I did some research on it, and I looked over. I spent a couple hours going over my notes. I went back and forth, and I wrote it. And unfortunately, I didn't get all of it. And thanks to everybody out there, you guys, you actually set me straight on that. A lot of things. I appreciate you on that, and I put it in there. Just something as simple as reflective chaff. I didn't even think that was a thing. But if you got an enemy that's firing at you with energy weapons from the ground, regular chaff ain't going to do squat. It's going to go through the chaff. It's going to then hit you. But reflective chaff, boink, it's going to bounce that laser off, especially depending on what type of laser you're using. So little things like that. Again, thank you all very much for helping me out with your critiques. And don't lambaste anybody too bad in the comment section. I mean, if you want to go after somebody who is just being a jerk, then be my guest. But if they're given an actual criticism saying, hey, you need to adjust here, this doesn't sound right, this doesn't work, here's something for later, those are fine. I got absolutely no problem with constructive criticism. Bring it on, people. I appreciate it. So there ends my notes and my unhedged tin talk. I would throw this one, but this has all my notes. There's actually Man and Machine right there. And this is all the notes from the whole series. There's a few other pieces in here, but this has been the series. That's me writing it. I'm probably going to have to get a new notepad and get going. That series was only meant to be about 5 or 6 chapters long. But since you guys like it so much, I not that I extended it any. I just put a lot more details and I focused on some of the smaller areas. So that one's looking to be about 20 chapters long, maybe 30. If you've seen or had my series, A Call from the Stars, A Call to Arms, my very first one, again, that was supposed to be short. And that went 31 chapters. That was a long way. All right, let's get into the chat room here. Let's see who's there. Yep, I seen Sea-Dog. All right, said hi. How am I this week? Well, I pulled something. I don't know what happened. I was actually helping my brother and his friends move some hay bales, and I wasn't even throwing them. I was just picking them up and moving them, and something on the side kind of torqued me. Thankfully, it's not another hernia. Been there, done that. Don't want that twice. That sucked so bad. But that's how I'm doing. Aside from that, health is good. Family's good. Everything's good. I got I got complaints, but you guys didn't come here for that. Why won't heat dissipate in space? I already went over that. There's nothing to actually conduct or convect with. It just doesn't happen. Actually, that's one of the reasons why when you look at the interviews at the space station, they're almost all sweating. And you're like, how are you under stress? You're floating. There's no resistance. How are you sweating? Are you working out? No, they're just hot. Let's see. Very little mass in space so as to bleed off heat. Yeah. The best way to bleed off heat and all that is just put the heat into some sort of radiator. And once it takes all the heat, send it off somewhere, or else it might melt. Okay, loud and clear. Would liquid nitrogen work for conduction? Inside the cooling system, absolutely. Spraying it on something hot is a bad idea. Thermal expansion, thermal reduction, and you're looking at stress cracking the metal instantly. Think of putting boiling water in a glass with ice in it, and the glass cracks and goes. It's the same thing's going to happen with the metal. There are very few metals out there that won't happen to, most of which I don't want to be anywhere near. So inside the system, absolutely, it would work very well. Now, I will say on the, what was that show? Space Above and Beyond back in the day. I'm sure a few of us older folks remember that. It was a great series. I recommend people looking it up. When one of their cooling pipes popped, one guy tried to stop it with his hand, and his hand actually froze to the pipe, and they had to break his hand off. The problem is they just about broke almost all his hand off with it. So it's very, very dangerous. Let's see. Hamish. Oh, Hamish is back. Hey, my bro. Sorry, missed a few of your live streams. Good to see you. Thank you. Fabian, what's Newtonian physics? Newtonian physics is using mass, just like E equals mc squared is Newtonian physics. When you're an object in motion stays in motion, sort of thing. Babylon 5 with their what the hell they call it, Star Fury, where it would go and turn and just kind of drift. It didn't have to, fire to keep going. It just kind of kept going in space. That's Newtonian physics. Just like if you're in a ship, even with the artificial gravity on, unless you have an inertial dampening system designed to stop you from moving from a certain direction, an explosion on the side of the ship is going to literally shoot you sideways or up or down or diagonal or flip you in whatever direction that was opposite the explosion at the speed of the explosion. Which is why in a lot of my stories, if you have a large explosion and the ship just goes that way really fast or that way or it doesn't matter, everybody on board is just piles of chunky salsa all over the ground, and you got yourself a ship. The hard part's doing that without blowing the damn ship to pieces, because that's a lot of force, and most metals, even in the universe, I mean, this is no unobtainium stuff we got going on. That's just that's Newtonian physics right there. At least that's my very, very dulled down version of it. What do you think of accelerated particle guns? Kind of like a PPC. They're a good idea. I'd have to see them more in practice. Now, does the science work on them? Yes. I've looked that up. The science does work. Have I seen a working version of it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The whole idea of those is you have a very small particle accelerator. It winds up real quick. That's why on every sci-fi show you hear it's actually spinning real fast, and it's trying to condense everything into a tiny little ball. And then when you squeeze the trigger, it just basically opens up a door and launches that SOB somewhere. The problem is making sure the particle ball that you've created doesn't exit the barrel and immediately go like basically turning into a fart. So you get the Minions fart gun eventually, except the only difference is if you got any antimatter, the moment it goes out and goes, it's going to explode, and you're going to go about 20 feet that way. So again, if you can get the science to work, yes, particle guns do work. They don't, as far as I know, you can't get one to rapid fire as we understand. You can get one to fire about as fast as a 25 millimeter cannon, which sounds a lot like it's as far as weapons go, especially handheld weapons, it's very slow, especially compared to the German MG42, which sounded like a C-130 just came down. I mean, you can't tell the difference between the shots. All right. What about heat sinks for dissipating heat? Heat sinks are the cooling system, Fabian. And that's actually what that is. Actually, you have heat sinks even on a radiator. it's all the wavy lines on there on your radiator. That is a heat sink. It does help, but it is just part of the cooling system itself. Let's see. Sea Dog with new crewmates is good. Yeah, I'll get at that one once I'm done with this series. Oh, I just skipped down real quick. Missiles are smaller than torpedoes. Yeah, in a general sense, they are. The torpedoes are usually meant to go really far against something that's at least, at bare minimum, 3 to 4 times as dense as missiles do. So they need a lot more propellant. They need a lot more everything to just keep going. A lot more shell and everything. As far as science fiction goes, you know, the difference between the two as far as functionality is very, very small. That's what I was getting at. Already warned to say, don't forget the Titan class ships. Yes, War Sniper. I remember you talking about the Titan class ships. It's just I am having a lot of trouble finding where I can practically put a Titan class ship, because Titan class ships can't even get within lunar orbit. Reason being is you would just constantly have to turn a huge fusion torch towards the planet and burn at full just to get away. I mean, that's the same thing they do in BattleTech, where a lot of, they call them drop ships, but they're actually intra-system transport ships. They can't get too close to a planet, or else they're just going to be sucked down by the gravitational pull and then splat. I mean, you got one choice, and that's eject as fast as possible, or else you are beyond screwed. Would reflective chaff be ceramic? It can be. Pretty much most reflective materials, depending on how they're designed, would work as reflective chaff. You would want something fairly light, honestly, just so it would spray out further and more chance of it catching whatever beam it was. Also, the fact with the reflective, a lot of radars, especially ground-based radars, would start having a seizure over all the sudden crap, the what do they say, the creeps, the squeaks, and the geeks, or whatever. They can dodge. Well, torpedo dig in for large damage, so there is a different. Yeah, okay, I went over that. Really like you using the battleships as small as Titans in Man of Machine. Their size difference actually comes down to the size of the aliens. Obviously, if someone's only 4 feet tall, they're not going to make as big a ship. Ours are big because we are one of the larger species. I haven't really touched on that much, and since you brought that up, I will. Well, like I said, I gotta get another thing, but I am going to put that down right now as far as different sizes here. Sizes. Holy shitballs. Okay. Yeah, I shouldn't say that on YouTube, but I don't care, because we have an SS Demon with a $50 super chat. I just saw that pop up as I'm writing my notes down. Woo. Thank you. I wish I had that button here, as my buddy, he runs a Grunspeak. He has one. We're not worthy from Wayne's World. So for once, I got some spare cash. Just wanted to throw a little support your way. Love your work. Thank you. I look forward to it every day. Helps me forget how cold it is outside at work. At a lumberyard forklift driver, 3rd shift. I also vote new crewmate. That one is funny. Outside forklift in the holy crap. Okay. You have my respect. I've done my outside work, and God, that's a 3rd shift too. So that's the middle of the night. That's when you're getting off work. That is the coldest it is throughout the entire day. That sucks. Oh, whew. You have my respect for being able to do that, Demon. That is just crazy. That is just that is some next level yikes right there. But yeah, I appreciate that. And everybody, give some support to Demon in the chat. Say and thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. Let me get back up here. Spearmaster and Sons. Boy, you got a lot of stuff in here. Okay. Hello, correct. Yeah, okay. Yeah, kaboom. I have the hardest time writing kablooey down and not having my spell check go absolutely crazy. For Particle see the depths. You know what? I was about to see that once, and unfortunately, the one I was going to see it with told me she didn't want to talk to me. So I was kind of in the depths about seeing the depths. So yeah, I'll look into it. Elite Dangerous did a thing where they had a system where they have a disposable heat sink to cool your ship. Yep, exactly what I'm talking about. You dump all the heat into one and you let it go. Bye-bye. Fabian, sorry for being dumb. I have struggle working mechanical things out. So sorry. Don't worry about that. Hey, everybody's got their own thing, Fabian. So don't take that personal. I mean, I can't draw. I can't draw to save my life. If I draw something, somebody's going to be like, well, it's either your sister, the Loch Ness monster with his head up its butt, a car wreck. Well, sometimes if I phase my eyes in and out, I might see Waldo. I'm terrible. I can create stories. I can't draw. I've tried. I've had people try to teach me, and it's a waste of time. So, yeah. Just you do what you do. Try to make yourself better at things, but just put more focus in what you have that you're good at. That's very important. Spearmaster, I would say Titans will be good for deep space ops, like a colony ship. Yes, that is 100% true. I haven't really, at least on Man and Machines, I haven't touched on colony ships. I did on other stories, but yeah, I haven't. And here's again the super chat from Demon. Once again, thank you. Edge Sight, if you want to capture a ship by making the people inside chunky salsa, have you thought about using a kinetic force gun? It just shoots kinetic energy as a projectile. Yes, actually, I have looked into that. It's basically a more physical version of a particle laser, if you want to break it down to the simplest terms. Now, will it work? Yes. Do you have a chance of flattening whichever side of the ship you're pushing? Yes. Do you have a chance if you're hitting it directly on the side to bend it in half? Oh, yeah. But does it work? Yes, it does. You just have to be careful. The amount of math a supercomputer would have to do to make sure that you took out the people inside compared to taking down the ship is just absolutely insane. I can't right now. My brain hurts thinking about it. Of course, my brain's hurt, doing the last chapter of that's coming out tonight. And yes, there is a video coming out tonight, folks. So don't worry about it. But yes, the kinetic force gun, that's honestly spooky when I started looking into that. And I saw that years ago. All right. Titan class power requirements. If we're talking nuclear reactors here, you're probably looking at about a half a dozen at minimum. I'm talking just barely run the basic systems because you have to run so much on that. You got to figure it takes more than a couple of nuclear power plants to run a major city. And a Titan class ship is basically that. It's a giant city in space. It's just absolutely crazy the amount of power you would need. Not to mention you're trying to heat one side, cool the other. It's absolutely shit. It'll drive you crazy. From the depths. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. From the depths. Don't worry about it, Spearmaster. That relationship was doomed to fail, and I knew it before that even happened. She just happened to pull the trigger first. So don't even worry your head about that one. Edge Sight, for reference, For what I mean, look at Half-Life games, Gravity Gun, and Dead Space Kinesis module. Is that right? Or Kinetics? I wasn't really big into Dead Space. I tried, but to me, it was just another. To me, at least, it was another zombie game, and I'm just like, okay, this is running zombies with hooks on them. That to me, that's all it was. Don't let me stop you from enjoying it. By all means, enjoy it. It just wasn't for me personally. So I'll have to look into that. Let me grab my notes here. Dead Space. Dead Space Kinesis mod and Half-Life. Well, I know the Gravity Gun. Everybody knows the Gravity Gun. That thing is it's not quite Gravity. It's a catchy name, but that's not how an actual Gravity Gun would work. Okay, War Sniper. What about supercarrier class spaceships? If we look at EVE Online, you need 4 to 6 Doomsday slots to kill one. I don't know if there's a way to use them in your story. All right, supercarriers. What would you define as a supercarrier? Because for most of it, a frigate class, and we're talking spaceships here, you can't really match them up exactly to our surface ships or our ocean fleet. Spaceships are going to be a bit larger. Most frigates are going to have a half a dozen to a dozen fighters or drones on them, maybe even shuttles. So would that make it a light carrier? Wouldn't that make a battleship, any battleship with any type of fighter escort, a supercarrier in comparison? Or a dreadnought? You know, the dreadnought class is actually bigger than battleship. The only difference is a dreadnought in space is basically a mobile fortress. That's what a dreadnought in space really is, which actually falls very close to the Titan class. The only difference is the Titan class is just out of sheer size. The thing is just gigantic. It's like another moon. It's just huge. Again, going back to the Expanse, they have one Titan class ship, and the thing makes most of their warships look like a matchbox car. So Titan class ships will be extremely hard to take down for the simple reason there's so much of it. Like when they were doing Independence Day, one of the only scenes that makes sense is they're shooting it with missiles and they're making these tiny little holes in the side. And they're like, we're not doing enough damage. I'm like, no kidding. The thing's twice the size of Manhattan and you're firing Sidewinders at it. Sidewinders are air-to-air missiles. There's not a lot of explosive in that. So, but supercarrier, could you make one? Yes. The thing is, I am not a big fan of fighter on fighter in space because it does not make sense. Fighters work here in atmosphere. If you're actually taking a planet, they work wonders. Okay, they're great. As long as you don't have somebody who can snipe you from the sky. But fighters inside an atmosphere work. Fighters outside the atmosphere, not so much. It's too easy to see them coming unless you're flying through an asteroid field or around like the rings of Saturn, where you can dip, dive, duck, dodge, and dodge all the way around and actually use the terrain to your advantage. You're just going to be targeted before you even see what's going to happen. They're going to fire a missile. That missile is going to track you no matter what you do, and kablowie. You got to remember, a drone or a missile flies like a missile. You fly like a person. You cannot make those high G turns. You are going to rip your body to pieces. It just doesn't work, which is why I use Newtonian physics to keep everything as level as I can. If you don't do that, especially if you make your own stuff, you're going to have a bit of a problem trying to keep consistency in your stories. It is what it is because people want to have one character or two where the universe bends around them. You know what you get? They have a word for that. It's called Mary Sue or Gary Stew. I refuse to do that. If someone's, put themselves in a shit situation they can't get out of, they're not getting out of. I don't care if it's the main character. Okay, you got me going crazy, but super carriers, it really doesn't fly. I mean, maybe if you're doing an invasion, but that's about it. They're very niche ships. Yeah, you're right, Sea-Dog. Boarding ops, you're going to have to just send in a cleanup crew and swab the floor and the wall and the ceiling as the entrails hang from it. You're sitting there walking through, the guy's guts are over there and his nutsack's over that side. And you're just like, which one do I clean up first? Not that one. I'll go over here and clean the intestines. Railguns. Ooh, I'm a big fan of railguns. Railguns have a lot of different names in science and science fiction. And a lot of times you'll hear mass driver cannon. That's one of the words for it. Gauss rifle, or simply Gauss. Railguns work very, very well. No propellant. They do have a little bit of a kickback, but not nearly as much as anything firing propellant. If I ever say anything where they're actually firing a main gun and it's a rod of metal, that's what they're using. They're using actual rail guns, and they're launching that sucker trying to perforate everything. And I don't know if that was in the last one. I think it was. There's you guys will get the perforate in there. And no spoilers on this channel. Not if I can help it. All right. But railguns are great. The thing is, you got to remember they only go so fast. So you have to have effective range. That's a key point. Let's see, Fabian, have you seen videos on how supersonic rounds warp the barrel with the heat after a few rounds? How to work around that? The only way to work around that is to have some sort of, well, they had it back in the day. The original 30 or not 30 caliber. Sorry, the original machine guns, the original Browning machine guns had a water tube around the barrel itself as a cooling tube. That's why you needed like 4 people to operate the damn thing. If you had all the tubes set up correctly, that water would boil off, the steam would go into another container to cool, and all you have to do is replace the container where it's feeding in with the container where it's coming out. If you're able to do that automatically, then yes, you can cool off the barrels. It's not a problem at all. The thing is, it's bulky. It is very, very, very bulky. So if you're firing a direct round, supersonic round from a barrel, the only other way to handle that is to have some sort of sabot round where it pulls the heat away and then those pieces break off as soon as it's fired. Those are the only ways I know of where they can do that, is to keep the barrel cool by constantly bringing some sort of coolant around and to limit the amount of heat being conducted as the round goes down the barrel. Landon is late to the party. Hey, don't worry. We brought you a drink, man. We brought you a drink. Railgun. That's the word I was looking for, Fabian. Okay. Leonid. I don't know what Leonid is. I'm sorry. Landon says nuts, fat fingers wasn't ready too. Okay. So far, I haven't seen any power sources in your universe that use 0-point modules like in Stargate Atlantis. Any chances these are shown? Yeah, I use 0-point all the time. I don't talk about them in every single one. I think, what was the last one I actually used them in? I talked about them a lot. 0-point, those of you don't know what 0-point is, 0-point power generation comes from the quantum field. It's actually the quantum flux field. Everything from the physical that we see breaking down to the cellular level, then to the molecular level, then the submolecular level, and you break down and down until you get to the quantum level, which is extremely small. The kicker is when you get down that far and you can see it, it looks like a haze. That's why it's a quantum field. You can't really see, but it's constantly in flux, hence the quantum flux field, which is why if you can tap into it, you can bring that power into a capacitor. Wait, the flux capacitor? Where have I heard that before? Yeah, science fiction does use real science fact every once in a while. Actual 0-point modules, I wouldn't actually call it a module, okay? And it doesn't glow like that. I'm going to tell you that straight up. Now, that's actually science fact. 0-point capacitors, a lot of people like to call it generators, not really a generator, but a 0-point You got me saying module here is a Freudian slip. The 0-point capacitor can create energy indefinitely. All you have to do if you want more energy is build a bigger one. And believe it or not, if you build one, it's against the law. Reason being, it's a patent office violation. And whenever they bring this up, I have to laugh my ass off, because how is it a patent violation unless it actually works and somebody's patented it? Makes you think, don't it? But yes, I don't really talk into the engine much, but when I actually talk about gravimetrics, you need a power source to make that work. Now, if it would be better if I actually talk more about the engines, I will make it a point. I'm going to actually put it in here. Engines. Talk about it, you dumbass. Okay. But yes, I'm a huge fan. 0-point, by the way. For anyone who is not familiar with it, I'm just going to let you know that when 0-point is allowed in the general population, you are going to see this world change within 10 to 15 years, maybe 20, and it is going to change things drastically. When I talk about a lot of the medical tech that rebuild or regenerates and stuff like that, a lot of that is 0-point, i.e. quantum flux field. God damn it. Now I got to do this again. Excuse me. All you do is change the frequency. As Tesla said, you want to understand physics, you understand energies, frequencies, and waves. And we can all understand this stuff. And I'm gonna geek out. I'm gonna nerd out on you for a second, because we all deal with this when we deal with the damn radio. You have a radio, you're working with this. You're working with this because the first one, you're dealing with energy. Okay, electricity. Okay, there you go. The second one, you got to work in waves. AM and FM are simply on different wavelengths. There's 2 down, 1 to go. How do you change the frequency? You change the channel. Congratulations. You know physics. All right, I'm going to keep moving on here. Is between Dreadnought and Titan class, they mostly use fighter and drone space fighters. Yeah, the super carriers would be within that. That is why the on Halo, the Infinity or Extremity or whatever the hell they call that ship, that actually falls into a super carrier, considering it actually carries its own complement of frigates inside, plus its own fighter escort, plus its own drop pods, plus its own Corvette class or shuttles, whatever you want to call them. I mean, it's all there. It is actually considered a super carrier, but it also has some really, really big guns. So, but it would never be considered a Titan class. The City High Charity would be considered a Titan class ship because that did move. That's a Titan class ship. It's not a warship. Very few Titan classes ever are. Drones, yeah, you'd have to use drones in space. This whole dogfighting in space with people inside, again, chunky salsa is what you're going to turn it yourself into. It's actually rather gross. I think, again, the Expanse is the only people that went over that. Sudden acceleration or deceleration is going to turn you into just goo. Let's see, EVE Online. Let's see. Demon says, to me, a super carrier is just a large carrier that carries more fighters and maybe some bigger, like maybe a couple Corvettes. Though I do like the idea of the Infinity from Halo that can, oh, okay, I should have read this earlier. That can carry frigates. Yeah, it carries either frigates or destroyers. But if you look at it, the way those, the ones it carries are basically an upsized Corvette, because they're not really designed much more than a mat gun with engines on it and then some point defense to keep it safe. They don't have any extras. The kicker is, especially when I talk about them, ships are designed for a specific purpose. If they're designed for minesweeping, if they're designed for carrying drones, if they're designed for carrying torpedoes, if they're designed for missiles, if they're designed for carrier escort, point defense, destroyers are specific. I am going to go in here real fast, and I am going to use a lot of guns, a lot of missiles, a lot of torpedoes, and I'm going to just fuck somebody's face in, just tear somebody up. That's the destroyer. They're very broad range. They're a jack of all trades, but they're meant for hit, run, rearm, do it again. Frigates are more niche, depending on which frigates. What are mag rifles? Mag rifles. I'm trying to remember exactly what that one was. I should actually have Google up right now, but I don't. They're a type of they're a magnetic activated Gauss, if I remember correctly. In other words, they're a type of railgun. They're, instead of propellant, they use magnets to launch the projectile as fast as they can. They tried to do a really bad movie back in the 90s on this, calling it an EM gun. Oh man, did they screw that up? Everything there was dumb. But yeah, it's basically a slug thrower without propellant. That's pretty much what it is. It says, also, why do fighter work in Atmos, not space specifically? Okay, I kind of went over this, but I'll touch it again. Fighters do not work in space because they can be seen coming. You can't use the terrain to your advantage, and you can't outrange the ship. One of the reasons why, if we sent a bunch of, say, F-15s against a flotilla, is they could get really low to the ground or water, and they wouldn't be seen until they popped up the fire. And by that, they might not be able to fire back. Modern destroyers the response time, especially US and British destroyers, is really fast. I mean, scary fast. Those guys know what they're doing. They're drilled really well. And those things just pop open and they launch within like 3 seconds. That thing's out of the tube and it's on its way to connect with it. But if you're in the vastness of space, they're going to see you at radar range, and they're already going to launch a missile at you. You're not going to have time to fire because you got to get within your range, effective range, and you got to fire enough to actually get through their point defense system. But once you're in space, all those extra factors, to include atmosphere itself, which is going to pull a lot of their shots off, you're better in a fighter. And that's why if you own the skies, you kind of own the planet to a point, unless somebody decides to glass the place. I would say slag the place a lot, but which I prefer to say because that's how I first heard it. But apparently you British guys, that's not a good thing to say, that you say that you do that to a planet. But fighters do work just because, again, they have something to work with. You can't outgun even a frigate in a fighter. It just doesn't happen. He's going to be able to fire way more at you, and he's going to be able to knock your stuff down before it does anything. Okay, Demon says, but super carrier just feels like it wouldn't be big enough. Now, maybe a carrier dreadnought could do something that could bring more ships of a larger size, or the idea of a fleet carrier that can carry a whole fleet to battle on its own. Sounds cool, but not sure how useful that would be, unless it's the only ship that had some sort of jump drive. Yeah, you're actually going into Battletech territory on that one. They actually have jump ships where everybody has to kind of latch on, and then you jump into another sector to actually do that. And it really depends on everybody's technology level on that. And actually, they did play with that in Star Wars, where the Empire actually doesn't have their fighters. They can't go into their version of FTL. They have to actually be a parasite and dock inside a ship, or else they can't go somewhere. Everybody else put the drives in their fighters, so they're already deployed. They just show up and start shooting. It really depends. It really does. There's a myriad of factors on that one. You seem to really like your carriers there, Demon. I like carriers too. I think they're great. But again, as far as space combat, they are very, very niche. Very niche. Now, they, if I remember correctly, it was Space Dock. Back when they used to be better, they've gotten pretty far away from their original thing. But they actually did a breakdown about fighters, space fighters in combat, and there was another couple channels that did that, and it just, unless you have a way of stealth for your fighters, that just doesn't fly. No pun intended. Learning says, I'm new to the streams. Well, welcome. Bravo to the actual story. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, hit that one. What is the drive called that the spaceships blink in and blink out as we are close to that tech in real life? Okay, that is the fold system, also known as a jump drive. What you're doing is you're actually warping time space. And here, they actually showed this on a movie once. So, but I'm going to get a piece of paper. I'm going to show you exactly. Okay, I'm trying not to destroy my notes here, but okay. Say you want to get from this point here to this point here. Instead of traversing all the way across, you are folding space itself to itself. You're matching it at the same spot, and then you're simply unfolding it. So instead of being here, when it unfolds, you're here. But that whole system has to work instantly. If it does not work instantly, you have the chance of killing everybody on board. The reason why it seems like that tech is so close there, War Sniper, is because we actually have it. The USS Eldridge actually conducted that experiment back in the 50s late 40s, if I remember correctly. Where they were working on teleportation. Teleportation is a fancy version of time travel, but there's a whole nother bag of worms I'm not going to go into. The reason the Eldridge succeeded and failed at the same time is because they did successfully teleport the damn ship. They forgot about the mass between the ship itself and the person. If the mass of the metal dissipates faster than the person, what's going to happen if you're standing on it? You're going to sink right through like you're on water or like wet sand or something. You're just going to sink. But what happens when suddenly you come out of it and suddenly that metal becomes solid again? Well, you're fused. You will literally fuse into that because you're actually vibrating at different speeds. And it actually, there's a touch of dimensional shift in there, but I'm not going to go into that. However, that's why you have to go in and out really, really fast. And that's why I just say blink, because it's zap. I mean, you're there. That's why the sensors can't pick you up, because they have to actually pick up the change in space that's going around. I don't know any sensors that can do that, at least not until you show up, because once you do, there's a burst of energy. There's always going to be a burst of energy where you left and where you came in. I don't know any physics that actually fights that ever. But that's why I keep saying, instead of jump, I just said blink. I thought it was kind of fun to say blink instead of jump or fold. And that's why I use it, because it is science fact that is kept from the population. Why is it kept from the population? For one reason and one reason only: money. If you could actually transport, even if you can transport people, what's going to happen to the transportation industry if you can transport 500 tons of equipment from, say, the east coast of the United States to the west coast of Spain in the matter of a second or two? Now, granted, you're still going to have to move everything off the pad when you do this, but still, you're looking at moving stuff at pennies. Was it going to cost you a couple $100 instead of tens of thousands of dollars and months on the sea to do this? I'm sure Sea Dog knows exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, that's a lot of money to be moving across the ocean. And if you can do that without putting any boats on the ocean, well, there you go. There's the boat making industry is going to be totally shot in the ass. You know, there's a whole shebang to go with that one. Now, sorry if where's my tinfoil hat? I should actually get one when I talk about stuff like this. But the fact of the matter is, it came down to money. They failed up, but they hit it as fast as they could. Sorry for my little rant, folks, but that one kind of it irritates the hell out of me when people hide technology that would better the world. It just irritates me. That's why I'm so mad about what happened to Tesla. Sorry, I couldn't type so much. Didn't mean to split like that. Yeah, you got to be careful with that enter key. I've done that myself. I've been going. I just bump it and it goes off. No worries there, Demon, at all. ZPE defo. Get how it all works now. Okay, good. Fabian says, so would a Titan class be a city ship if you looked at it that way? Yeah, pretty much. Titan classes are, again, niche vessels. They're only used on certain things for certain missions. Colonization would be an excellent one for a Titan class ship. Actually, they had one in Babylon 5. They showed it one time. It was horrible CGI, but it was bigger than the station. And it rolled in. It was just this huge, massive ship meant for colonization. And yeah, that works because you have to live on that. And it might be generational if you don't have stasis fields to go with it or some sort of stasis. Because honestly, you wouldn't get me in there if I got to spend 30 years in a tin can knowing I'm never going to get out of it. Screw you. Let's see. Let me scroll down here to the Sea Dog. I would hate to be the XO on a Titan class or Titan type carrier. Chain of command would suck. Well, the chain of command always sucks. Where are you going? I mean, come on. There's always one or two officers with a stick shoved right up their butt so much you can actually see it in the back of their mouth when they talk. I mean, it's so crazy. And I will say, I hope, Sea Dog, that I'm not throwing everything too far off. I'm making you laugh at how bad I am at Navy verbiage. But yeah, the amount of different command areas you'd have to have different type of flight commands, probably several different decks going off at the same time, managing multiple crews on each one for multiple shifts. I mean, holy crap. The logistics alone for even just a standard aircraft carrier just blows the mind. And then you have a Titan class ship where you're basically trying to run a city through whatever your command and control is. Oof. Yeah. What about space carriers carrying atmospheric fighters? I did touch on that, Leonid, and yes, it would work. If you're looking for a giant or large space carrier that would be transporting fighters from one planet to another, they would work. If you're doing for planetary invasion, that would work wonderfully. But again, it's niche. I don't know any other reason you would need one at all, especially when you can take care of the majority of your fighters. If your enemy does not focus on their air force, you don't need a huge air force. You just need something that's going to kick their air force's ass. So if you have a bunch of missiles that can outrange them and outmaneuver them, and I'm not just talking about in space either. I'm talking if they're trying to take down your frigates as your medical frigate's trying to land. If they can just fire out and take these guys out before they even get close, it doesn't make sense. But if they tried to land a frigate on our planet, try to land it in the middle of Germany without being covered in Eurofighters, the Gripens over there, those things are agile. They're scary agile. But they also carry a decent amount. They also have plenty of our tech over there. Good luck. They're just going to be overwhelmed with firepower. So again, it would be nice to look at space carriers like that. But again, unless you're actually a military that wants to take a planet, you wouldn't really see it. I'm contemplating whether or not I would put it in man or machine, but we'll see if it works. I would have to do a little bit of adjustment. That would be a siege ship. Yes, it would. Absolutely, that would be a siege. And we all know about sieges. It's not the fighting that kills most people; it's the starving. All that. I love that scene because it's so true. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Game of Thrones, they're talking about sieging a castle area, and there was just so much truth in the guy's words. It's crazy, especially when I looked into it, and he was right. Every siege that I've ever looked into, once they actually do a full encirclement, people just starve out. Tungsten spikes from orbit is real. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The actual damage it does is minimal, at least on the surface that you could see. What you would use the tungsten spikes for, also known as the rods from God, is for one reason only, is to shatter the bedrock underneath the actual large buildings. If you shot 4 or 5 of those, say, systematically across like Manhattan or New York City, a lot of those big buildings would just start shimmying like crazy. And eventually they're going to come down. I give them about a year, maybe less, and they're just going to start toppling over like dominoes. I mean, it's crazy. It's going to be like a Big Bang Theory. Giant Jenga, I win. You know, but on the surface, you wouldn't see much. You just see that thing go straight down into the ground. But there's no give in the bedrock at all. It just cracks and shatters when you hit it, especially at that speed. However, in science fiction, they do have another purpose, and that is to hit underground bunkers, especially if you're dealing with insectoid races and you know where the queen is. You get to perforate the bitch, you know, just kind of straight through, and she's going to be like, what's that? Right through, you know. Wasn't that the one where oh yeah, the Eldridge. Yep. That's where everybody got molded into the ship. A lot of the guys with the arms, I know what happened. I mean, common sense tells you exactly what happened. When it was going, they lost their inner ear control, because that's going to be the first thing to go. And they put their arm out trying to go up against the wall, not realizing that wall is going to go through. Well, by the time they realized their arms through the wall, it, you know, merged again. And then the guys who sunk through, all the reports say the same thing. It's either their arms or they were walking through a wall and they freaking stopped. Because again, once you're like disoriented and shit, you're like, oh, here's the wall. And then, oh shit, where's the wall? Where's the wall? Where's the wall? Next thing you know, you're in the middle of it, and then it comes back. It's just, again, common freaking sense. But yeah, that it works. It just, certain factors have to be made. You can't do it slowly. Just like time travel, when they were talking about that, if that it allows you, say you have an actual time travel portal, you can't go through, just like you can't do like the little sparkly thing on Star Trek. You're going to end up very, very dead. And in a very gross, disgusting, and probably painful way. Let's see. Okay, Blink works. Loves the stories, man. Thank you, Cloud Rider. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about with Amazon, but okay. Everything that helps always get hidden. Yeah, a lot of times. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Fabian says, what about hypersonic nuclear powered missiles? As far as in space, or are we talking in the atmosphere? Because in the atmosphere, we already got hypersonics, but you don't want to do nuclear. That just, it scares people, even though it's a lot cleaner than people think. Honestly, you just have to vacate the area for, what was it, 48, 72 hours, something like that, and 98% of the radiation is gone, at least by modern nuclear standards. The old stuff is dirty as hell. As far as up in space, you would need something hypersonic to actually get to the lines to blow up everybody else. But yeah. The thing is, nuclear missiles in space, if they don't have something to push against, you might as well just be using a standard explosive. Just like when they were going to nuke the moon. Yeah, the U.S. Army was going to nuke the moon, and then they realized it wasn't really a nuke in space is just about as powerful as an actual normal HE round. There really wasn't much to see. That being said, again, if you can compress everybody around them and then kablooey, then it's one hell big of a kablooey. I love to make things go kablooey. Let's see. Cloud Rider says the thing is most of the Earth's military is in Asia. If you go by numbers, yeah. If you go by equipment, especially functional equipment, you're looking at the top military is the U.S. military. The second one is the U.S. militia, i.e. civilians. The third one is if you start putting together the European nations. They you put them together, that's a pretty big number. But I'm talking machinery here, because it's come out, at least nowadays, that a lot of the fancy Su-57s and stuff like that, where they got them lined up on the tarmac, are fake. They're pieces of wood. There was a big windstorm that came up, and a bunch of them literally fell apart, and we got pictures of it. It's actually kind of funny. So just be careful about that. But again, if you are talking personnel, Cloud, you are 100% correct. Not when you use 5,000. I'm not sure what that was. Earthquakes and volcanoes. Yeah. If you did use the spikes, if you hit the right spot, okay. I'll give you two here in the U.S. One of them is the Cascadia fault line. Okay. If you're able to pierce that in the right spot, one or two spots, and let it go free, because that thing, instead of tectonic plates going like this, it's actually curled up like this. So when it goes, it's going to go, and yikes. The resulting tsunami, well, I'm sorry, Japan, but I hope you grow gills, because by the time it gets there, it's going to be nasty. It will sink Seattle, Portland. Both of those will be completely uninhabitable, basically, for months. And whatever is up in Canada there, the next city up. Sorry if I don't remember. I'm not one for that. But yeah, the Cascadia fault line, if you hit it in the right spots, you're looking at some serious problems. And if you pierce a supervolcano, then you've really screwed somebody up. It's really bad. If you haven't seen what supervolcanoes do, I recommend you look it up, and you might need a drink. Okay, Demon says, how do you feel about World War I battleships that fly but not in space, in atmosphere only? I saw an anime called The Last Exile. I thought it was pretty good. Also, the Stargate series was my favorite sci-fi series. Okay, first off, I did not see The Last Exile, so I can't say or have an opinion on something I don't know about. So, World War I style battleships in atmosphere, if you can get them to fly with some sort of repulsor engine, and yes, it's not anti-gravity, it's repulsor. There's more words attached to that, but I'm just going to call it that. And yes, that's where Star Wars got it, with the repulsor engines that make things hover. Repulsors can actually make you basically fly. It's actually levitate, but whatever. Anyways, World War I styles that fly, I'd make them pretty damn dangerous. I would pay good money to see the USS Texas get up from the lake they got it sitting in, and hover its butt over towards the French coast, and be like, you remember when I was here before? Yeah, I can get closer now. And just to see the look on their face, because that thing, they had a lot of guns. If you could do that, bring that, a World War I style battleship, and get it to levitate, and you brought it in during World War II, you're looking at a completely different way of fighting, because a lot of the carriers too, even if all you could get was the battleships, you're looking at complete and total control of the air. Because if it doesn't have to go down to refuel, you're catching everything on its way up. And you have the same issue with the aircraft in space, or in atmosphere, as you do in space. Because what they would end up doing is they were putting a whole butt ton of ball turrets on the bottom, and with a whole bunch of howitzers sticking out the bottom, and literally you'd be sitting like, hey, a new way, if you flush the toilet, I'm dropping bombs as these cannons are firing, that would be honestly horrifying to see, but kind of cool. Now, as far as Stargate goes, I was not a huge fan. I enjoyed watching it for one reason and one reason only. the actors did an exceptionally good job. They did. The reason I did not like Stargate is because it fell under the same trope where as soon as they beat the bad guy, right behind it is a more dangerous bad guy, and somehow where they were, they suddenly regress. And I'm like, what in the ever-loving hell? Why? It doesn't make sense that you guys start over from zero again or at a lower standard where you have to do the same storyline 2, 3, 4 times until people caught on. And I'm just like, my brain hurts. You know, this. But don't get me wrong, the actors were funny. They were great. The guy who plays MacGyver was really good. The goofy guy who was supposed to be a nerd, but his arms are like this damn big. You know, he did a really good job. You know, I just thought they casted very well for that show. All right, let's see. On to this Cloud Rider. Indian soldiers are scary, especially their commandos and special forces. I haven't worked with them more than once, and when I talked to them, it wasn't in the field. We were actually at the same training ground, and we had to talk through an interpreter because most of us couldn't speak the other one's language, and though they could speak, most of them could speak some sort of broken English, which did help. But we didn't really have a problem with them. We didn't see them in the field though. So again, I can't say that. And I've never worked with their special forces. I've worked with ours. I can't say too much. I can talk about the training I did, but anything beyond that, I can't talk about. Fabian, ion drives. Ion drives simply turn into a upgraded version of fusion reaction drives. It's pretty much what it is. You're chucking ions out the back to cause thrust to go the other way. It's the same thing. Let's see. Leonid says, maybe if you want to vaporize an armor at 1 million degrees, ouch, then you might go nuclear. Well, it doesn't quite get that hot, but oh no, wait, it does get hotter. Oh, gee, sorry. I was thinking about the wrong thing, but yeah, if you want to vaporize an armor, at least in atmosphere, again, if there's nothing for the explosion to push around, it's a quick pop of light in space, and that's it. There's no. That's why the blast wave of it, and you got to remember the heat. Yeah, you're going to get a burst of heat, but it dissipates so fast in omnidirectional. One of the reasons why nuclear weapons are so hot is because they're held in from the ground, and that compression causes a lot more heat to come up. There's a whole lot of science that goes into that. Now, actually, in space, like I said, nuclear is, you got to get it right on top of them. Let's see. War Sniper says, I gotta go. It's here at 1:44 morning in the Netherlands. Oh shit. Yeah. Good night, Sniper. Which I find funny when people online go, hey, grab the sniper. Hey, buddy, come over here. No, grab your sniper. He's right here. No, grab your sniper. This is the guy. No, the weapon. You mean the sniper's rifle? Yeah, hold on. Let me grab that. That's let's see. War Sniper said, love your stories. What I listened to in the morning. Thank you. Fabian says, wasn't World War I battleship decks wood? Many of them were. At least the top layer. They were actually sitting on metal. And what that was is so they could, if a round hit, the round would explode on the deck, destroy the wood, but the wood would take so much of the force away, it didn't damage the metal and it wouldn't pierce through. The explosion wouldn't have enough, balls to go through, and then, you could keep going. Even World War II battleships, go visit the Missouri. It's still there. I was there. It still has a wooden deck. They got to replace it every 15 years. And they got to, put sealant and stuff on it, but it's still there. Yeah. And that's the whole point of the wooden deck. Where was I? The hull would be naked. Well, don't look, Bloody Good series, loved it. better than Stargate was a good series, better than Star Trek, definitely better than modern Star Trek, I'll tell you. You're thinking of Rodney McKay. See that goofy guy that couldn't, every time they wanted to piss him off or scare him, they threw a lemon at his face or something? I was like, what the hell? He did an okay job, if that's what I'm thinking of. Most of the Stargate spinoffs, I was deployed and I watched a lot of stuff. If you're deployed and you cannot finish a series, it's not your deal. It's just not your deal. And I couldn't with the Stargate spinoffs. I could watch pretty much the original one, and that was it. Let's see. Indian Special Forces worked with UK SAS, sometimes joint missions in Africa and around Asian and the Middle East. Okay, I didn't see him when I was in the Middle East. I was actually working. Yeah, the UK guys were there too. I don't know if they were working together. That didn't come up, but it's possible. There weren't many of them. There was like maybe a company's worth that I saw of the Indian guys. There was at least a battalion's worth of the UK guys, so they probably were working better. Let's see, space mines. Yep. Now the thing with space mines, one of the ways you could get better is you basically turn it into an omnidirectional bouncing Betty or Claymore. Just cover it with metal balls about the size of golf balls and send those out. That'll really screw up a ship pretty good, because again, they're moving at the speed of the explosion. So that one, yes, you could use a nuke. They would see the flash and go, oh, pretty, what the hell was that? If you ever seen a hornet's nest grenade go off, it'd be like that, but just a lot bigger and actually lethal. Let's see. Bell says, can you do some stories with capsaicin and with Man and Machine? Will there be more ground stuff going in the future with that story? Now, my last one hasn't dropped yet, but and since there's no spoilers on the show, all I can say is maybe. Oh, wait, wrong hand. Been listening for a year. Love the channel. Thank you. Magnetic mines. Yep, that's what I used in Man or Machine. I used those. They pulled everybody together so they could blow them up. I'm loving Man or Machine. Can't wait for the new episode when I wake up in the morning. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. My biggest times of the night or times of the day, oddly enough, is not the morning there, Fabian. It's usually first thing when it drops at midnight, and then mid-afternoon, at least here in the U.S. So probably about the same time most people are getting up around the world. And now I will, fair warning, they may or may not get a little longer or a little shorter as they are, because as I showed before with all the notes here of Man and Machine, that's they're at least 4 or 5 pages at minimum of notes alone, and a lot of times I'm scribbling stuff in the margins as I go, so it might get a little much. The problem is I got to worry about burnout, folks. It's just trying to keep up with it's getting to be trying, but it's still doable. I actually try to do it first thing in the morning when I'm fresh. Let's see. 1 a.m. here at, oh, God dang. Cloud says, for us in the UK, it comes around 5 in the morning. Oh, so yeah, first thing in the morning. Yeah. Oddly enough, it wasn't supposed to happen at midnight. That was a YouTube screw up at first, and I figured I'd just roll with it. Which is why if I miss a day, you can expect it to, if I can, I'll get it out by noon that next day instead of midnight. So your series needs to be making to an anime. Which one, Cloud? You're talking Man and Machine, or are you talking Call to the Stars? Are you talking They Call Us Monsters? Something in the Elevator? It's kind of, you gotta narrow it down, because a lot of people will get about halfway through a series and they all say the same thing. It should be one. I'd love to create an anime. I'd love to create a manga. I'd love to create a comic. I'd love to create an actual movie or a series, a live action series. That'd be great. But so far, I'm just some guy online who has a YouTube channel that people enjoy listening to. Let's see, where was I? You can only do a story for so long. Need a break at times. Yeah, that's true. But I'm on a roll, and since I started making sure I don't throw my notes out, I made that mistake one time, and it kicked me in the nuts really hard. And because I had to go back and re-listen to about 3 or 4 different videos and take notes on what I had before. So, yeah, it is what it is. But now I can just look into my notes. I was here. These were the numbers before. The buildup is here. They lost this many, blah, 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 blah. I can just write it down. Makes it a whole lot easier. And so it's not as much of a brain hurter than let's see. Demon says, have to leave for work now, unfortunately. Thanks for all that you do. Hey, thanks for being here, Demon, and thanks for the support. Supposed to be 25 degrees tonight, but at least no rain. Oh, don't say the R word, man. Don't say the R word. When I was in Hawaii, that's what we said. Don't say the R word, just like you don't say wind in Chicago. Oh, no, I said wind. Knock on wood, and don't jinx myself. Take care and keep being me. Okay. I don't know who else I can be. I don't have that sort of technology around. All need to do is animation. Again, I can't draw. I'd love to get a lot of this animated, especially ambush predators. I think everybody would get the biggest kick out of that, seeing the transformation, especially when Greknar is still walking around. She's like, wait a minute, I still have a tail? Oh, shit. I'd love to put that in. Or some kid walking up, go, what's this? Do a Goku pull on the tail bit. And she's like, that hurts. When is the next part of Ultimate Ambush Predator? Well, I got at least this series to get through Man of Machine, and I've got new crewmate to finish before I even consider Ambush Predator being worked on. At this point, all I have is some sketched out notes. I will say there's going to be another time jump. So at least the first episode, when it does drop, it's going to be a lot of explanation, just like any other time jump, but it will have about 7 to 10 chapters minimum. But as of right now, it's not on the priority list. We got other things going on now. I would chip in what little money I could help support anime, movie, or whatever. If you were making it for real now, I have to go. Good night. Demon, go to work, man. Go to work. Don't get fired. Don't get fired on my account. It's great that you're here. I appreciate it. Everybody loves that you're here. So, but don't let me harm you. Put the earbuds in. Just one. Don't forget when you're driving. You can never have 2. Cloud Rider says -2 here. -2 centigrade or Fahrenheit. That's a big difference. Germany is 2 degrees centigrade, so it's about 35 degrees Fahrenheit. Yep. 19 degrees Fahrenheit in Maine, which is, sorry, I'm trying to do the conversions in my head. It's -5, I think, in centigrade, 6. Let's see. Fabian says, love a new crewmate. That's because it's just a goofy, like, if anybody likes anime, you're going to like new crewmate, because it pretty much puts them in the same thing. Like, I got all these hot chicks, but I swear, if I let the python out of the pants, I am screwed, and not in a good way. It's a whole lot of crap. What do I do now? What do I do? All right. Let's see. Sea Dog's got to go. See you later. How about aliens coming down to Earth during World War II? Kicker is that's been done a lot. I don't like stepping on other people's works, because I don't want to seem like I'm ripping people off. And that's a big, big deal, is not ripping other folks off. The kicker is, and here's what's funny. Hold on, I'll wet my whistle for this one. Every time I drop a 1-part series, especially, it's just a one-off video, and I get a lot of views, within a week, I will see the titles on other folks who read off Reddit and stuff like that, because they're actually running out of material over there, because more people are doing or wanting to do what I do, is actually create their own material, create their own channel. Unfortunately, most people don't know how to narrate correctly. I will admit I sucked at it when I started. I learned thanks to you guys giving me a heads up on what I need to do. That being said, I will see the same subject, almost the exact same storyline with very similar characters, just a few little tweaks, and they're going to keep going with the same thing. And I'm just like, oh, geez. Case in point, when I did the Forgotten Ways, I think it was, where they crash landed on a planet, and the only ones who remembered their bushcrafting skills or had any were the humans themselves. And within a year, they basically had their own town built up in the trees and stuff like that, trying to stay away from the predators and whatnot. And everyone's like, yeah, if you get stuck on a planet, make sure you have a human. And they're everywhere now. It was crazy how fast those came out. Now, don't get me wrong, few people had their own twists on it and they did okay. But yeah, it's funny when people imitate your stuff. I mean, it's supposed to be the greatest form of, compliment to imitate someone. I just like, dude, use it for inspiration, but don't copy me straight up. Okay, let's see. Cloud Rider. Some people use AI generated stories. Yeah, and they're boring. There'll never be a twist. There'll never be suddenly this happens, suddenly that happens. Because a lot of times people like me, when we're putting them together, we got to remember there's two different parties going against each other, sometimes 3 or 4. And you have to have, okay, the enemy's in this position. This is their mentality. This is their fighting strength. What would they do? It's not as simple, oh, I'm going to follow these guys and they're going to kick ass the whole way through. There's always something happening. There's always trying to fight back and forth. You got to remember your enemy is not always going to be a pushover. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It really depends. How desperate are they? Are they ruled by one person? Is it a council? Is it multiple planets? Is it multiple species? All this comes into play. And actually, that's one of the reasons for the notes is in one point, I'm like, okay, we're working with 5 different species here. Let me write these down. I had them in columns. I think it's one of the notebooks back there. And I had it in columns, and I'm going down each one. And all of a sudden, I got to one point. I'm like, oh, well, these guys are screwed. These guys are going to do well. These guys are going to, what would we do? Oh, crap. Okay, we're in a tight pickle. What are we going to do here? Who would adapt, who would adjust, and who would actually do this? Let's see. So you got to keep that in mind. That's why AI generated stories suck so much. Where was I? Read that story. Good one. Okay. How about aliens come to Earth in the middle of World War I? Basically, the British, the most recent version of War of the Worlds. They did a pretty good job on that one. Now, what I would love to do, absolutely love to do, is actually create a Battletech story where they came in the late 80s, early 90s, when our technology level would pretty much match what they got. That would be very, very interesting. The thing is, the middle of World War I, yeah, that would become a cluster very, very quickly, because no one would know what to shoot at. They wouldn't know if they're buddies or their friends. That would be more of a psychological story. There wouldn't be as much actual action in a story like that as a in-depth look at exactly who is my enemy here, especially if the aliens are trying to play both sides. But everybody knows the aliens are playing both sides. They're like, well, we don't want our friends to be our enemies, but our enemies are our friends. How does this work? There would be a lot of standby and let's figure this out for a while. Killer Blake got finally caught one of your lives. Well, here you are. And I'm on for as long as you guys are here. I'm actually, I look up at the counter once in a while, just kind of like see how many folks are here. It drops too low and we're just going to be cutting sling load. I'd actually make the symbol for that, but for that, I got to raise one of my hands up with the palm forward. And for a white guy to do that nowadays, I don't need that on the internet. Thank you. So if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Probably already written, but I like space tourism. Actually, that was the inspiration for one of the biggest hits I got right off the bat when I knew I was actually on point is when I wrote if a human brings a knife to a gunfight, run. And it was all about the guy's going to be working in human space. Not really a tourist, but it's similar. And he's sitting at a bar and he's having drinks with his dad, celebrating that he's leaving. And the bartender hears where he's going. He's like, hold on, let me bring in this bottle. Let me pour you a drink. Let me tell you something about humans. Humans are crazy, and he just kind of goes on. And it's just them sitting in a bar talking. And he's talking about all that. Yeah. Oh, Fabian, I'm glad you enjoyed that one. That, like I said, that was the one that allowed me to know I was on the right path. And the first time I realized that, thumbnails matter, especially when you're starting out. I didn't think they made that big of a deal, but thumbnails definitely did matter. But that's also where I started to use a lot of the science fiction trope of energy weapons, especially pistols. A lot of those, unless you have some sort of extremely strong energy cell, it's not going to have enough to get through our skin because our skin is used to actually dealing with the sun. If you're using a UV type laser to actually fire and shoot at somebody, unless you get them in the eyes, all you're going to do is piss them off. And yeah, you don't want to see a drunk, pissed off person. I mean, we've all seen them. Some of us are related to a few of them, and yeah, it's not fun. Anyways, let's see. Killer Blake, I have a question. I have question out you. Dissension. Dude, are you okay? On the man and machine about kicking them off the planet, they said they had claimed. Oh, there's a question on why the humans kicked them off a planet they believe they had claimed. The humans had claimed a certain amount of territory. And at that point, that system had not been claimed, which means nobody was living on it. The only reason they put anyone there, the other faction put anyone there, is to try and claim ownership of the planet. So when humans did show up, they could say, oh, no, we're already here. Well, humans at that point did have chill. And they're like, no, we're just going to remove you. We're going to be very polite about it. We're going to show you that we could kick your ass if we want to, but we're going to be nice. We're going to be as very nice as possible. It's the third rule of being a bouncer. Be nice. And the fact that at that point, they don't even know if they're dealing with robots or people. They didn't know if they could rationalize with them or not. And it was all just a simple territorial dispute. Again, when they sent hey, here's our territorial line, nobody was there. The fact that they had moved in after that was basically a giant screw you. So, yeah, exactly, Fabian. It was a test. They were trying to test the humans to see if we were turbo assholes. We weren't. No, we're assholes. Yeah, don't get me wrong. We are. We're just not that type of asshole. Not unless we have to be. And that's what it was. Thank you, Fabian, for that. I was having trouble getting the words out. Maybe I need another drink. Were they the first ones to attack, or were they isolated? That in particular faction that moved in, they were the ones that bordered up in that region. They were not the ones to attack. They ran into human space because they had nowhere else to go. They had any other direction would have gone into faction space, and they would have been just taken instantly, either taken over, taken out. That's it. So they ran to the humans saying, please help. We need something. Do I need something stronger? Oh, I wouldn't be able to put words together. Believe me, I'm already halfway down this 12-ounce bottle. If I had that much whiskey, I'd be down there. And also, any tequila. I am the epitome of 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila floor. It's I'm just one of those guys. Although, give me vodka and you wouldn't even tell that I've been drinking. My personal biochemistry just doesn't allow me to get drunk that way. I've been sitting there and literally upended a bottle of Smirnoff and drank the whole thing. Granted, that stuff is disgusting, but it doesn't affect me. My buddy, I only see him like once every like 2 or 3 years. He can do the same thing with tequila. But if we swap bottles, we're both on the ground, completely out of it. So, okay, Killer Blake, what led the 3 factions to attack them? They just wanted the territory. The faction that ran to, now I thought I had explained this enough, but I'm going to have to remind myself to put the details in. The reason the 3 factions came at them is they simply wanted the territory. That's it. The faction that ran to the humans was the weakest of the 4, but they believed they were some backwater faction. Nobody cared about their territory. What does it matter? They have enough to make an incursion hurt enough that it's not worth trying if 1 faction comes at them. But if 3, they're completely outgunned, outmanned, they'll be overrun way too quick. And that's what happened. And with the 3 factions, now they have a type of balance. With 3, they can vote and they can get things done. Things aren't going to be deadlocked 2 and 2. There's a whole myriad of factors that go into that one. But more along the lines of there's the idea of indefinite expansion. Now, that the whole manifest destiny thing and the way Rome believed in indefinite expansion, it never works. It doesn't work. Well, it works for a short time, but once you expand too far, you expand to the point where you implode. It's the opposite of a nuclear explosion. And it's just the way it is. You cannot indefinitely expand. It's not possible. So once you can no longer expand and things become stagnant and you're based on that system, your entire system falls apart. So they needed more land. They needed more slaves. They needed more resources. They needed just more. And that's what happened. Okay. Let's see. You are too fit. I don't know if I'm too fit. I still got to go to the gym tomorrow. Killer Blake. Oh, misunderstanding. Thought the 3 factions thought they were getting buddy with the humans. There was that. But that was used more as propaganda than anything else. And I know I put this in there where they were saying, hey, we've given you all the information. Well, you have to be holding back. We've given you all the information. We've sold everything to you. You have to be holding back. I know you're holding back. It's the same thing. It's like if you start feeding an animal and they're still hungry, but you run out of food. What are they going to do? They're going to come at you trying to pull your pockets open, looking for more food because they think you got it. That's just the way it is. But again, that's more propaganda than anything else. How about taking alien hiking through all weathers? See, it's sort of been done and it's sort of not been done at the same time. That's a good one. Going camping. I did the one where you went hunting. I don't know, Fabian, if you've seen that one, human hunting season. And and it's actually humans. If you can read it different ways. It's either human hunting season or human hunting season. It's almost like that whole PetSmart or PetSmart deal. It was just the way it read. But yeah, it's they definitely found out what humans are about when they go hunting. and having to trudge through the woods, being cold, and taking everything and all that, all the different nuances, along with drinking a lot. Me, I'm just drinking this. So now, as far as Man of Machine goes, yes, again, there is another chapter dropping tonight. It was already preset to post. It's already good to go. I'm going to double check it as soon as the stream is over to make sure everything is good to go. And so you guys get what you want. And hopefully it goes over just as well, because things have been going really well. I, again, didn't expect that series to go over, but seeing that many views in one day is great. I do ask you guys one favor, and that is to share the channel. Okay. I love likes. Comments are great. Views are the best. But if you could share it so this channel can grow, maybe I'll get myself an even better mic, and I'll be able to, get something on these walls, because they do echo a bit. I don't want it to. That's why a lot of you are wondering why I'm kind of talking low when I'm doing the audio. So I'm trying not to have reverberation off the walls. And because that had one guy actually ask me earlier, are you talking into a can? That was the comment. And all I could think of, and I almost responded with, I am Groot, because that's how Vin Diesel did it. He actually had a big coffee can. He actually said that in there, and the reverberation came back. Anyway, we got a whole bunch more stuff here. Where was I? Has everyone gone to bed? Almost. We're still steady at about 14, 15 folks watching right now. It's been bouncing around between 10 and 20 all night. Do you know Ringworld from Niven? No, I don't. I don't know that one. Let's see. Yeah, can't wait till morning for the next one. Yeah, Ringworld Niven. I'll have to take a look. Yeah, I have no idea what that one is. The only ring worlds I know of are in this sector, and that's Jupiter and Saturn. Yes, Jupiter does have a ring. It's a very small ring, but it's there. Unless you're talking about one of those where a space dock is actually a giant donut of a space dock is made and is fitted over the planet using the gravitational pull to hold it in place. In other words, it's squeezing it all together, kind of like a dome does. Or are you talking like Halo, where it's a ring, we're using centrifugal force to actually hold everybody down? I have no idea which one it is. There's a lot of different ones. Unfortunately, there's a lot of meanings to the same words, which kind of gets confusing. I try to dodge it as best I can, folks, but sometimes it is what it is. I'm glad you're willing to talk, Sophie. Hey, I'm glad that everybody's here. When it hits about 8:30, though, I might just pull off, because, like I said, I got to get up at around 4:30 so I can hit the gym. But Dyson Sphere. Oh, boy, Dyson Spheres. Those are fun. The problem is they're theoretically impossible, because you need so much material to create one of those. It is absolutely staggering. I mean, you're talking about being able to encapsulate an entire star or an entire sector, which is basically a solar system. Okay, not basically. It is a solar system. I mean, that's a lot of material. I mean, that could be paper thin, and that's still more than our asteroid belt and Oort cloud times like 5 billion. I mean, it's just crazy how much material that actually is. And system, yeah, system is a term for the galaxy you're in around one star, unless it's a binary star system. But whatever star system, instead of saying star system, everybody just says system. Just like the Sol system. We're sitting in it right now. About 1,000 worlds to make a Dyson sphere. Yeah, about. Basically, pancake them flat and strap them around the star. I mean, that's again, crazy amount. And now Dyson spheres, in theory, do work. The problem is the amount of energy you're pulling off, not only through just UV radiation, but thermal radiation and everything else that's coming off there is way more than anyone ever needs. I don't see a reason to have that much juice. I mean, what are you doing? Trying to zap a whole new system out of existence? Let's see. Killer Blake says, everybody may be home. I'm at work, so I guess I'll stay till he gets off. Give me something to listen to. You're waiting for me to get, never mind. I won't do the joke. That's low-hanging fruit. Oh, God, that even sounds worse now. Oh, shit. I just walked myself into that one. So you make rings. Well, you could make the rings, yeah, and put them around. But again, you're trying to absorb so much in a Dyson sphere, because that's what Dyson spheres are, is they're wrapping around a star. Are you using sector for your solar system in story? Yes, I always do. Okay. The soul sector, the soul system, those are interchangeable. And as I actually talked to an astrophysicist, and he said, yes, they are interchangeable. You can. Every once in a while, you have to specify so that people don't get confused. But he said it is right. You can swap them. It's absolutely no problem. And I do actually. I haven't seen him in the chat in a while. He had a very off name. It was like 10 different words all kind of amalgamated together. And he gave me some really, really good advice when I started, especially with the verbiage. Dyson sphere to power a laser and push a spaceship out of the system. I don't know how that power is going to push it, but I mean, yeah, if you had some sort of reaction drive, I guess. I don't remember the Dyson sphere in Halo. Now, I didn't play the last Halo yet. I bought it and then I moved, and it's just it's never come out of the case. Neither, and I'm still down to one controller, so I kind of, yeah. I haven't played it, so right now you're in spoiler alert territory. So please don't ruin it for me, because once the entertainment center area is set up downstairs, then I'm gonna sit down with my nephew and we're just gonna knock the game out. Actually, he wants to play all of them back to back. I'm like, dude, that's gonna take a whole weekend. Have you seen the latest vids on how far the orb cloud goes out? Not the latest vid, no, but the ones I have seen, it's actually surprising. It like quadruples the size of the sector. It's just absolutely amazing. For those that don't know, the orb cloud is a giant debris field. It is just absolutely massive. It totally encapsulates the outside of our solar system, our sector, where basically, if you look at the asteroid belt, just take that ring, send it to the outside of the system, and then wrap the entire system up with it. It's kind of messed up. How would that work out with stories? Well, that's why you have to be, well, that's actually why in a lot of the stories I use a jump drive and not a FTL system, because trying to wiggle your way through without some sort of relays to keep everything away from you is pretty impossible at that speed. It's just absolutely crazy. That's why I like the jump drives a whole lot better. It makes, at least to me, makes a whole lot better sense, not only science fiction, but science fact-wise, because you can't slalom at 200 miles an hour. It just doesn't work. I mean, so some people say, oh, I can do that. I'll just wave the ass end of the car around. Yeah, but the poles are only 8 feet apart. Can you do that at 90 miles an hour without rolling the damn car or ripping a part of it up? No, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to hit a pole, I guarantee, even if you could actually do the turns. Could it be done once? Sure. Try doing it consistently. And by the way, we're going to have the poles move as you're going through. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely nuts. So, anyways, folks, it is around 8:30 here. I do appreciate all of you staying with me for the entire show and all the way to the end. I will end up seeing the rest of you. Remember, there is a story dropping tonight at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So, whichever time that is where you are, feel free to pop on in, give it a view, give it a listen, give it a like if you can. Hell, give this video a like if you want. I'd appreciate that too. Because you know what? It helps with that wonderful algorithm that we all have to play with. So this is going to be your quick safety brief. And remember, if you drive, you don't drink. If you drink, you don't drive. If your buddy wants to drink and drive, you can kick their ass. And if you get arrested for kicking their ass to stop them from drinking and driving, hey, send the cops to me. I'll even tell them I told this guy to stop his buddy. Just remember also, if your little soldier's going in the bush, make sure he wears his poncho. Very important nowadays, especially nowadays. Yes, hint, hint on that one. And make sure you stay away from the bad ones, stay away from the bad people. You are the sum of the people you hang around with. So if you hang out with people who are going to be losers, you're going to be pulled down that direction. Stay straight, stay on task, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I'll see you next week. This is Syntax signing off.